Welcome to the Rotary Club of York, the 24th largest club in the world. We are a people of action committed to service above self and honoring the four-way test. Leanne Wilson will lead us in our opening song, The Star-Spangled Banner, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation will be offered by Steve Feldman, and visitor introductions will be provided by Tony Schweitzer.
Please join me in singing the Star-Spangled Banner, which I hope we'll hear a lot during the Summer Olympics in the next 2 weeks. I want to turn this up. I'm adding music. Hopefully that's okay. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Who saved us the Star-Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Given the sober topic of our speaker's address today, I thought I would provide two appropriate quotations before our invocation. From Galileo, wine is sunlight held together by water. From Groucho Marx, I shall drink no wine before it's time. It's time. Please join me in prayer. O God of the planting, God of the harvest, all those who make their living from the fruits of the earth turn to you for blessing on their yields. All those who receive both sustenance and joy from food and drink would do well to do the same thing. We thank you for the inspiration of the world's farmers. Help us never to forget that it is their hard work that feeds the world. Accordingly, we are grateful for our speaker today and for her work to bring a little liquid sunshine and joy into our community. And we are grateful for this Rotary Club, its mission of fellowship, the fostering of honest and mutually beneficial relationships, and its commitment to service above self. We are equally grateful for our meal and for those who have provided it. Bless and guide our club and its leadership with wisdom and discernment. Amen.
Good afternoon. I now get the honor of reading our guest list here. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing until President Jackie has welcomed you. There are no visiting Rotarians today. Our guests include Melissa Ropp, student of education, Lisa Wise, student of education, Mary Greist, student of education, Emily Vergara Pimentel, and student of education, and Roxana Vergara Pimentel, and Mark Ilfelder, guest of Ray Rosen. Leave that there for you.
We welcome our guests. We're so happy that you're with us today. We hope that you find this meeting enjoyable, rewarding, and that you'll plan to join us again many times in the future. Maybe even next week we'll do a bourbon tasting. Maybe we'll get you to come back then. We'll see. But welcome, guests. Our Rotarians, please help me welcome our guests. I am excited to tell you that this is a record today. We have 100 Rotarians in the room with us today. Good job. Welcome to those who are Zooming in. We have another 22 watching us online today, and we look forward to continuing to fill this room back to where it was before. So great to see all of you. And what could be better than providing this warm ambiance for our lovely wine tasting that we're enjoying today? This is by design. The IDEA Committee will be meeting on Monday morning at 8 a.m., July 26th via Zoom. The Fellowship Committee has two fun back-to-back events. On Thursday, July 29th, come to Rotary's Night at the Revs. The Fellowship Committee is hosting an RCY family night at the ballpark with food, family, baseball, and fun. To order tickets, please contact Rob Bowen no later than Monday, July 26th. And then on Friday, July 30th, join us for Rotarians networking at the York State Fair. That'll take place at 12 noon at the York Expo Center's veranda room. The event includes lunch and will be hosted by Rotarian Leon Butler and also York Fair CEO Brian Blair. Reservations are required. Please RSVP to Renee no later than Monday, July 26th. So the deadline for both of these events is next Monday, the 26th. And there are also sign-up sheets on your tables. Following today's meeting, I encourage you to visit the Rotary Club of York Facebook page and like, comment, and share, and inspire other people to come visit our club. And now for our member moment. Today we feature Brian Danahy. Brian grew up in Toledo, Ohio, and has been involved in the hospitality industry since he was 12 years old. He worked at Sylvania Country Club in Sylvania, Ohio, which is a suburb of Toledo. He worked in the summers as a caddy, and then in the winters, he washed dishes. He continued to progress in his jobs and his promotions until he left for college. When he began his freshman year at Ohio State, he thought he wanted to pursue dentistry as a career, but he soon realized that his real calling is in hospitality. And so he changed his major and earned his degree in hospitality management. While at Ohio State, Brian's former boss became the general manager at Brookside Golf and Country Club and asked him to come work there as his assistant GM. So Brian did work there throughout his college career until a year after graduation, when he accepted a position at a golf and country club in Charlotte, North Carolina. He worked there for 6 years before a headhunter tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Would you consider applying for the general manager COO position at the Country Club of York?" It was the first time he'd applied to the top position in a club, and he has embraced this role with enthusiasm and strong business acumen. Brian moved to York in 2014, and members at CCY immediately began encouraging him to become a Rotarian. Ed Crooks was his proposer in 2015. Brian happily accepted the invitation as Rotary runs deep in his family. His father has been a longtime Rotarian, as are his uncles. Brian enjoyed attending the Rotary meetings at the Yorktown Hotel and was pleased to accommodate us here when renovations were announced for the hotel. We are now in our 5th year at this location, and he and his staff continue to provide first-rate service and support and pulling out all the stops to accommodate us no matter what we're presented with. So thank you so much, Brian. Brian met his wife, Jan, when he first moved to York, and they were married 2 years ago. Jan loves to run and is an avid distance runner. Brian loathes running, does not enjoy it at all. In fact, he grew up playing ice hockey and baseball. He always thought that running was a punishment at practices. If you messed up, if you were late, that's what he thought running was for, not for enjoyment, certainly. But Brian is a competitive guy, and so he accompanied his wife to a half marathon in Richmond, Virginia, and on a whim decided to join her for the nearly 13.2 mile race. Let's keep in mind, he hadn't practiced at all. He didn't even go for a jog around the block in preparation. He just ran the thing cold, thinking to himself, how hard can it be? So Brian, and you can ask him, will be the first to tell you, was the worst experience of his entire life. He couldn't walk at all for a day and was in terrible pain for the following 10. Needless to say, he has a lot of respect for runners. Brian loves living in the York community. He's enjoyed getting to know his fellow Rotarians, and you'll often see him in the hallway greeting us and checking on meeting arrangements to ensure all is running smoothly. We're fortunate to have Brian as a member of Rotary and as GM of the Country Club of York. And now to present oh, yes, why not? Good job, Brian. To present a non-traditional student scholarship award is our own Diane Marino, and we'll also hear an update from a current award recipient.
Thank you, President Jackie. Good afternoon, everyone. First, I have two announcements today, but the first one, I am very proud to introduce and welcome back Emily. Tony, you did a much better job with her last name, so I'm not going to go for it. Emily is going to be starting her second year at Temple University. She was the winner of the Charles Deal Scholarship. She gets $1,000 every year for 4 years. So I'm going to present her with her second $1,000 check, and she's going to give us an update on how her first year's been.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Hello, my name is Emily Vergara Pimenta, and I'm a recipient of the Charles Deal Scholarship. For my first year, which was unfortunately a lot of change, plans have been changed due to the coronavirus pandemic, but even with all the obstacles, a lot of things have been overcome. I finished my first year with a 3.88 GPA. Thank you. After my first semester, I applied and got accepted into the honors college program at Temple University as well. Thank you. I did my first year entirely online, but planned next semester to become hybrid and move back to Philadelphia to enjoy the Temple University and kind of basically have my first official year on campus once more. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Okay, and second, I'd like to introduce Melissa Raup. I'm not sure how long it's been that Patty Rooney and I, years and years ago, thought, these merit scholarships and these students are incredible. But there's also another group of students out there that we need to help. And Melissa just epitomizes that group of student, the non-traditional. Melissa, in her own words, said that she has made some poor choices. She graduated from, where did you graduate from? Red Lion, thank you. Oh, there it is. Back in 2000. Since then, she fell into the group of, her mom told me we made too much to not get help from financial aid, but we didn't make enough to afford school. And there's a lot of people in that range. So between that and Melissa's poor choices, she went to work. She has been with Tony at Bell Socialization Services for 6 years. And she works full time. She goes to school part-time at Aspen University, hoping to graduate in 2024. And she is also raising a 12-year-old son. The money that you have so generously given to the non-traditional scholarship, this is what it's for. Congratulations, Melissa. We wish you all the luck in the world. And here is your check. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And now I am very, very excited to introduce past President Mike Summers to introduce our incredible program today with Amy Thorn.
Well, there is a buzz in the room today. Has nothing to do with the wine. We're very excited about our speaker and our subject matter. And our speaker is Amy Thorn. And she's the owner and winemaker of Thornhill Vineyards. And she founded Thornhill in 2005 and created her first wine vintage in 2007. Today, the vineyard produces 15 different award-winning wines, and you got to try a couple today, and you'll get to try another one at the end of Amy's presentation. Amy believes that winemaking is a union of passion and art and science, with a chemist as a father and a family tree whose winemaking roots trace back to the 1600s in Alsace, France. It should come as no surprise that she is drawn to a career in the winemaking industry. With great enthusiasm and love for what she does, Amy blends the art and science of winemaking like few can. While studying abroad in college, she became interested in the way other cultures integrate wine with food and how large a role wine played. After graduating from college, she found early work in the sciences with EG&G engineering, which she followed with a career in supply chain management. At the turn of the millennia, she heeded the call of a more entrepreneurial path, leveraging her business skills, her knowledge of supply chain processes, and managerial capabilities. She founded Thornhill Vineyard. Amy believes that the art of winemaking is living with things that constantly change and evolve with its environment. She wishes her wines reflect this. They are vital and infused with unique character, reflecting her distinctive terroir and embodying the hallmarks of characteristics of each variety. While Thornhill Vineyard is located in the Napa region of California wine country, interestingly, Amy and her husband Jack call Lancaster, Pennsylvania home. And many fellow Yorkers have found their tasting room a delightful visit on the Fruitville Pike just off Route 30. Amy is joined today with her daughter, Rachel, and Valerie Wise, who handles events. And I think we just want to take one quick second to thank Valerie and Rachel for our little tasting. So let's give them a little hand. Amy will speak today about her passion for making wines, will no doubt inspire our club members with her personal path and her winery's great history of manifesting dreams by turning your passion into purpose to create that big magic. Fellow Rotarians and guests, please warmly welcome the owner and the winemaker, Amy Thorn of Thornhill Vineyards.
Okay, well, I like to move while I talk, and I just want to say what a great pleasure it is to be here. I look out on this room and it feels so good to see so many people come together in community, working, having purpose in York and in your businesses, and for us all to be here without masks. So let's say amen to that, right? But what I'm going to talk to you about today is, I know not everyone in this room loves wine, and it's okay. You don't have to. I won't be upset by that. But I know one thing everyone in this room has, and that's a dream. And what I'm going to talk about today is, yes, you're going to hear the story of my dream, of our family's dream. My daughter's right back there. She's hiding in the back. But this was a family affair. But what I want you to be thinking about is I want you to be thinking about your dream, you know, where you want to go in your life. Each of you in this room, you are all a great business person, or you wouldn't be here. The Rotary is such a phenomenal organization, and it does so many wonderful things in our community. And each of you are a part of it. And it was interesting because I asked Jackie as I was sitting there having lunch with her, I said, what's the secret? You're the largest Rotary in Pennsylvania. Wow, right here in York. That's incredibly impressive. And she said, and Mike said, it's about community. It's about people coming together for a higher purpose. Well, guess what? That's what dream making is all about. And that's also what my dream of making world-class wines was all about. So where does it all begin? When you have a dream, no matter what it is, mine was winemaking, you have to have passion. And that is something I am told I have a lot of. And let me tell you, I put a lot of passion in every drop of wine that has the Thorn name. So it's really important that we harness that we have an awareness of what our heart calling is. And we take that heart calling and we take our passion and we make it happen. So as I go through this, I want you all to be aware of what your heart calling is. And this is a photo of my husband, Jack, and my son, Jonathan. And when we got that awareness back in 2005, this is us on our property out in the Red Hills. That's where we found our vein of gold, was in the Red Hills in Lake County in California. And that desire to make world-class wines, as they said, ancestry and Alsace, but my family came here in 1726. That's when my family settled in Pennsylvania and stayed in Pennsylvania. So how does this little Pennsylvania girl, right? Where Pennsylvania is not necessarily known for world-class wine. Now, I know that there are fans out there of Pennsylvania wine, and I think every dream should come true. But there is something that the French will tell you that you need if you're going to make world-class wines, and that's the right terroir. And that's a combination of the right earth, the right amount of sunshine, and just a little bit of water. And I love the quote that was shared earlier about that. So that passion and that dream, we realized we couldn't accomplish what we wanted in Pennsylvania. Could we have made wine in Pennsylvania? Yes. But would it have been award-winning, world-class wine? No. That can't happen. We get not enough sunshine here. There's too much rain, and the soil is just too rich. The reason why we can grow all those great crops is part of the reason why it's so hard to grow wine, because wine needs to struggle. The grapes need to struggle. And guess what? If you're in the process of dream making and making your dreams come true, you're going to struggle too. So here we are. I'm going to talk today about winemaking and the 7 steps of winemaking. But what I'm really going to talk about is the 7 steps of dream making, how you make your dreams come true. Because I want each and every one of you, if you haven't already done it, to leave this presentation, hopefully enjoying Thornhill wines, but to have a better idea of what that path of manifestation creates, what that looks for, how you can transform your wine, your life, just the way I transform my wines. Here's Jack and I. This was back in 1997. I know I'm dating myself. This is when the dream was just in our head and we had just started off. We're actually on the grounds of Moet Chandon and we're about ready to take off on a big balloon up in the air with our dream. And that's how we feel, isn't it? When we start on any path and we want to manifest something and bring it forward and there's a dream come true, we just are so lifted up by the passion and the excitement and the awareness of what that's going to be. So we're going to get into the story. This is what our property looks like today. I know the pictures are a little bit small, but you can see the grapevines. That's up in Lake County. And I invite each and every one of you, if you get to California, or if you fly into San Francisco, come and see us. We have a gorgeous wine ranch out there. We built it. My son actually went out there after he graduated from college, broke ground, the stone walls he built with his own two hands, and it was a family vision, an amazing family vision. And this is what it looks like. This is what a dream looks like when it comes true. But boy, let me tell you, there's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of perseverance. There were a lot of obstacles that had to be overcome. So I told you I was going to tell you, and you were going to learn about the 7 stages of winemaking. Well, stage number 1, I already said, it all begins with the grapes, right? It begins with great terroir. So here is some of my fabulous Merlot grapes. All of you had that Merlot earlier. If you didn't know, and I'm sure Rachel and Valerie shared, it got 99 out of 100 points. That is not easy to do with any wine because, and I'm going to teach you the 5 S's of wine appreciation too. We're going to do that later. That's how the judges actually judge the wine. So remember, it all begins with the grapes, with the ground. And, you know, you have to nurture that. And here I am, got my cowboy hat, right? I wear many hats. We all wear many hats when we build businesses or make dreams come true. And I'm out in our vineyards. This is our Sonoma Ranch. We actually have vineyards in Napa Valley, Sonoma, and Lake County. And in our Sonoma vineyards, we grow our Pinot Noir, our Merlot, which you had today, and our Chardonnay. And I invite you, and everybody has in front of you a tasting card, and you also have in front of you a little sign up. So please write down your name so we can put you on our mailing list if you'd like to come in and take that tasting card. We talked about the very many varietals of wine that I make and bring it down to our Lancaster tasting room on Fruitvale Pike and join us for a tasting. So dream making, we have to nurture the dream. We have to keep the passion front and center, and we have to stay committed to making it happen. The Rotary would not be around as long as it would and has been if it wasn't for each and every one of you being committed to a common goal of making your community better. That's a dream. When that first started, the idea of a Rotary was a dream, but it took the passion, the perseverance, the commitment of all of you to continue to make that dream come true. So here is that award-winning Pinot Noir in the bottle. We're pouring it here. And, you know, one of the things, and I just put this up because it was fun. It's Rachel and I. We have fun together as a family because, you know, you just have to celebrate the small things in your life, the small successes, because as you're on this path of manifestation, you know, sometimes it's a challenge. So here's commitment. My husband and I are at the World of Pinot Noir. We had a lot of fun there. Second stage of winemaking, right? So it's all about the grapes, and you have to nurture the grapes. You have to let them get ripe. You have to pick them at the absolute peak ripeness, so you get that beautiful fruit forwardness on the palate. And then, of course, you have to harvest them. So here I am, and when I go out and harvesting, and it's a fabulous thing, I harvest around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. It's pitch black outside. We have to get big lights out. Why? Why do you do that? Because it's really important, and this only happens in California, that you get this great temperature, really hot during the day, but drops down and gets cool at night. And so it's important that you harvest the grapes at the right time and bring them into the winery when they're still cold. So you want to be completely done. And it is a magical experience to be there in the vineyards, to see the sun, the first kiss of sunshine come over the vines. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of picking crew. They're not permanent crew. They're migrant workers. They work very, very hard. And one of the things that I have found by working with a lot of diversity of people is that we all share passion. And one of my favorite things about harvesting, other than the fact that it's a joyous day where I get to make and get to birth the wine, when I'm harvesting the grapes, that's the day that wine is born, is that I'm joined in community with this diverse group of people that, believe it or not, sing as the sun comes up, it's hard work. And there I am, I'm right there with them and checking the grapes, making sure that only the finest clusters actually get harvested. And that's important in your dream making. We have to do sacrifice. Sometimes you have to sacrifice. Sometimes I have to throw full clusters away. Guess what? I can make perfectly good wine, acceptable wine, drinkable wine, if I harvested every single grape cluster that they try to pick. But I only want the best. I have to sacrifice. I have to sometimes be willing to have lower yields in order to have the quality. And isn't that true in our lives? Think about your life. Think about all the sacrifices that you've made, whether it's sacrificing your time for the benefit of the Rotary, sacrificing long hours to keep your businesses going, because you're trying to create something that's better. And that takes time. It takes passion. And I love this saying, combining commitment and passion gives you the power to overcome any obstacle between you and your goal. And let me tell you, I've had some obstacles. Remember the fires? I've had fires. I've had earthquakes. Yes, we have had insect plagues. I've had just about every obstacle thrown in my way that would have prevented me from making a world-class wine. But you know what? I didn't let it daunt me any more than when we wanted to make world-class wines. And I have a bi-coastal lifestyle. I just flew back here on Monday. I wanted to be here to do this talk. It took me 12 hours to do my commute from work. I don't know how long yours is, but I'll tell you, I spent a lot of time in an airplane. But we're talking about stage 3 of winemaking, right? So first, it's all about the grapes. We have to harvest the grapes, and then we have to crush and destem them. And here I am. I'm on the crush pad at the winery. If you ever come down during harvest, come see me. It's a lot of fun. And we're picking out. Now, only the best clusters were harvested. So what are we doing here? We're de-stemming it, and we're picking out only the very best berries that are going to go into that fermentation tank. And this is where the process for wine is all about transformation. And when you're making your dream come true, you have to think about that, because from a winemaking, when you ferment the grapes, you put the grapes, and you can see here it is. This is in a tank, and you inoculate it with yeast, and the yeast eat the sugars that are naturally occurring in the grapes, and that converts the grape juice into wine. And that's how the wine happens. Well, there's intense heat that goes on in fermentation. And if there is one time during the entire process where there's a lot of risk, it's during the fermentation. I have to stay on top of it. I have to be careful what the tank temperatures are. I've got to be putting my nose in there all the time. I've got to be pushing all of the seeds and the skins down so it gets contact with the wine juice to bring out the color, to bring out the flavors. There is so much that's happening during that step and stage of transformation, because that's what's going on. And alchemy is going on. There's this transformation that's going on. There's big magic, big magic. And that's what dream making is all about. It takes that. It will transform us. It will change us. But you got to use some big magic. You can't be afraid of it. That's the power of dream making. So here I am. We're fermenting the wine. And then you have to think about the power of your will. And the tool as a winemaker, and as a female winemaker, for all you women in the audience, I use a lot of intuition in my winemaking. I know when Mike introduced me, he talked about combining, the terroir and the best of what nature can give you. And I like to be a non-interventionist, right? I like to say, what was it that nature intended that wine to be? And I'm 100% varietal pure with all my varieties. And then it's up to me to nurture it and bring that forward. And so you use a lot of intuition. It's the same thing. We're all parents. I'm sure many of us are parents in this room. What do you use a lot of when you're raising your children? Discipline, yes, but intuition, right? You want to raise them. You want to bring out the very best in them. I feel that way about my wines as well. And then, of course, I use my taste And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting to pour the big magic, because we're going to tell that story in a little bit. And I want you to be able to taste it. So they're going to be able to come around and start pouring. But remember, no tasting. We're going to do that together. You're going to learn the 5 S's of wine appreciation. So here I am. I'm actually tasting it. And this is my first opportunity as a winemaker to understand what that final wine that I've cultivated and nurtured is going to taste like. So what's the next stage of winemaking? It's select the barrels. Everyone, is there anyone in this room that has not seen a wine barrel? I did not think so. But I bet you there was nobody that ever went to a cooperage and saw how wine barrels made, or even has an understanding. I use 100% French oak. And I have certain coopers that I really stay with. They actually, everything's coming from France. And so you harvest the trees, only certain trees that can be used. And they're going to instill different characteristics in a wine. So if you've ever heard wine, and I'm sure you have, and I'm going to describe my Sauvignon Blanc that you were all, I looked, most people had Sauvignon Blanc. Did you have Sauvignon Blanc? There you go. Wasn't it good? I'll tell you, that's my 2020 harvest. And it has this beautiful tropical fruits on the nose. It's got some citrus, has just a little bit of apple. Those were the qualities, right? What am I describing? I'm describing the fruit that comes from the grapes. Now with the Merlot, was great, right? It was jammy. It had some plum. It had some black fruits for those of you that tried that, but it also had some mocha and some spice. Well, the mocha and the spice characteristic in the wine comes from the oak barrels. And so as a winemaker, it is an art of barrel selecting, because you've got to marry the right French oak barrel with the right varietal to bring out the characteristics as a winemaker that I want that final wine to have. And it's the same thing in dream making. If you're trying to make a dream come true, you have to take the right circumstances, right? You got to put the right people, you got to partner to them together on the best teams to bring out the very best in the people around you, because those are who is going to make your dreams come true. So I work with my coopers. I actually literally go down. It's so much fun. If you ever come out, I'll take you on a cooperage tour. And I get in there with everybody, and there's fires, and they're in the cooperage, because that's how that toast level inside the barrels, how you get those wonderful caramel and mocha and those other characteristics come from the fire being burned inside the barrel. It chars the barrel, and it brings this great flavors into your wine. So I'm there working hand in hand, when they're pounding and putting the barrels together, and every single one I select by hand when I'm harvesting, and I line up my barrels, because when that wine's done and it's coming out of that fermentation tank, you want to put it into the barrel. So we talked about winemaking, and in dream making, remember, it's the power of your will. You can think, dream, and talk all you want to manifest your passion. It will take willful action. And we all know that, right? That you're all part of the Rotary. You are taking action, because behind every great accomplishment, there's someone with a strong will who can forge circumstances that align with their goal, and who keeps going when the things get tough. And that has been something I've learned. I'm not the same person I was. When I first became a winemaker, it was a dream. I had had a passion. I had studied wine. I was a wine judge before I ever became a winemaker. And I had a dream, and I thought, wouldn't that be awesome just to go out there to California and make world-class wines, and, be able to do what I love, what my heart is calling me to. But, how am I going to do that? And I had no idea that when I was birthing these wines and watching the wines, that they were going to teach me not just lessons in business, but spiritual lessons as well. I transformed, and the wine on your table is about transformation. It's big magic, so I do want you to look at it, because it's really important, and they're pouring it now. And the story is about big magic. Now, where did the name come from? It's an important name. The name came from the fact that I thought if there was one name that we were going to call our wine, because wine's about transformation, Dream making's about transformation. It's big magic, because that's what we need in our lives, right? We need big magic. Don't be afraid of it. The 7 steps are about the manifestation and how you bring that about. And for this particular wine, it was my son, Jonathan, who really wanted it to be birthed, because at that point, I'm going to tell a little story. Mike wanted me to share this. You know, here we are. We made all of these wines. We're in Pennsylvania. How do you sell the wine, right? So you have to think about that. You have to communicate your story. And that is a really important part. So the Thornhill story started out in Pennsylvania. We went to California. We found our land. We grew our grapes. We built our tasting rooms. We got our winery. That process took a long time. From 2005, see the power of love. That's another one too. Here we are, 2005. We're together. Jonathan just graduated from high school. Rachel, who's in the back of the room, is 14 years old. And we're out there, and we had just bought the land. And at that point, we were high on the dream. My gosh, to be sitting there with our children, have our children interested in continuing on. Now, that is the power of love. And there is no higher achievement, I think, that we can do when manifesting our dreams, and to do it with the people we love the most in the entire world. So it was a lot of fun. So that's when we harvested it. And, you know, but it's about also the story. And you can make great wine, but if you can't sell it, there's a lot of great wine out there. You have to be able to sell it at the end of the day, right? I mean, if you have a product, you can make the best product in the whole world. If you're not selling it, then you're in trouble. You really have to think about that. So what we did is, after the wines were made, we decided we would open our tasting rooms. And at that point, Jack, my husband Jack, tried to get our wines represented by the PLCB. And we all know in Pennsylvania, they're very locked down. There is no wine sold, no licenses awarded where you can sell direct in the state of Pennsylvania. Never even happened, was never even heard of. And here comes the Thorn family, right? The Thorn family decides, well, you know, we need to sell our wines in Pennsylvania. I made the wine then. 2007 was my first vintage. We bought the land in 2005, 2007, the first vintages of Thornhill. Now we have to sell the wine, right? How do you do that? So Jack, being a very entrepreneurial, and those in the room, I don't know how many people know Jack Thorn, but boy, he is a force. He is a power to be reckoned, a positive, passionate individual that absolutely loves people and loves wine, loves community. He knocked on the door of the PLCB and he said to them, hey, I've got this great wine. I'm really proud of my wife. She made it. Let me taste it. Let me taste it with you. See what you think. Well, you know, they heard him out. He's persevering. They tasted it and they said, yeah, you know what? We are going to sell this wine here. We'll sell it here at the PLCB. We're going to buy a pallet of each of the varietals that you have. And that's great. And he came back and he said, Amy, I have great news. The PLCB is going to represent our wine. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's wonderful. And then we ran into some challenges. Well, one of my backgrounds before I became a winemaker, I was in global supply chain. And supply chain is what kept us all going through COVID, right? If it wasn't for our supply chains, none of these goods would even be here. So the journey of the wine had to take to get from our warehouse where we had the wine in California all the way to Pennsylvania was on a rail car in midsummer in about 110-degree heat. Now, how do you think that made me feel as a winemaker? I've taken care of these. I've babied these. I've raised these grapes. I've done a beautiful job with this wine. And then there it was not being transported correctly. So that problem, that obstacle led the Thorn family again to say, there's got to be a better way to sell wine in Pennsylvania. There's got to be a way where we can control the quality, because we've controlled the quality that goes into the bottle. We know about supply chain. Let's bring it over in a refrigerated truck instead so that the wine stays at the perfect temperature, which is 55 degrees. And so that's what we decided. And we were awarded the first and only license by a California winery to sell direct in the state of Pennsylvania. And we can open up 4 more stores. Our first store was on the Fruitville Pike. And that was right there in Lancaster. And that's how Thorn Hill came to be, right here in Lancaster. So the story, though, with the PLCB continues. So we opened the tasting room in 2011. We're celebrating our 10th year. I invite any of you to come back. We're open 7 days a week. How many people have been to Thorn Hill here? I love it. Next time I come, if you invite me back, I want all those hands to go up in the air. Okay. Use your cards that are on your table. Come and see me. I mean, it's not often you have a California winery and award-winning wine right in your backyard. It's only 20 minutes over the river from here. So come see us. Definitely. Anyway, so we talked about the power of the story. I'm going to tell you a story about Big Magic now. So Big Magic, fast forward, this is a 2017 vintage. So at this point, we're selling wine in Lancaster. We're selling wine in our tasting room in Lake County. We have gorgeous villas. You can come and be our guests as well. We have 3 beautiful villa suites. We're selling wine at the winery in Napa Valley. And I have another tasting room open in St. Helena that's exclusively Thorn Hill. So we're selling our wine direct, 100% Thorn Hill in 4 different locations. And we're thinking, particularly my son, next generation wants to bring it forward, is saying, you know what? Let's take Thorn Hill and go bigger. We need to be bigger. We need to be distributed nationally. Let's create a wine. And we sat together. And at that point, I had never made a blend. Never. I had never made a blended wine. So what we decided to do was to put a blend together. And the blend was in the Big Magic. It's 52% Cab, 30% Zinfandel, and 18% Petite Syrah. And it is my 3 favorite varietals. And we knocked on the PLCB door again. Well, at this point, they were kind of saying, you know, would you guys consider coming and maybe making a wine that could go bigger? And I put the blend together. Very, very, very rare blend. And I had 3 bottles of it. That was it. Everything else was in the barrel because I had never put blends together, right? This was a new transformation. This was something new. This was something we were doing as a family, was to go bigger and to take our vision to a larger group. And they tasted it once again, and they said, wow, we love that. And then they looked at the label. I had a bottle of my 3 sisters and my daughter's in the back of the room. I'm going to bring her up at the end. She actually did that label design. She was an artist, and she designs all of our labels. So they love the 3 sisters. Come see that. It's an awesome label. And they said, you know what? We want to buy the wine, but we really want you to put a remarkable label on it. And we love the 3 sisters, and think about it. So we had so much fun. Rachel and I got together, and that's how we co-create all of the labels. I always have a vision in my mind, and we've got this symbiotic relationship where she's the only artist I've ever worked with that I can say, okay, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm thinking. And she's like, okay, I got it. And the next day she sketched it out and she hands it to me, and it's a manifestation of exactly what I had in my mind. And that's how that label came into being. And so, long story short, the PLCB bought 5,000 cases. This was my 17 vintage. We delivered it in June of 2019, about not even 6 months before COVID hit. And do you know, today, despite COVID, despite the PLCB being closed for so many months, they have maybe 200 cases of it left. That's how popular it was. And that's what you're going to try in just a minute. And so that's what I blended together. That was a little bit of magic that I brought into wine. So think about, again, dream making. It takes vision, but it really takes the ability to think about doing something in a different way. And that takes risk, right? But if you don't take the risk, where are the rewards? It also takes community. It takes people. And it takes passion. All of those things combined together are just so important in dream making. So we're at the very last part of this, bottle and bottle aging. Needless to say, I bottled the Big Magic. I did have a really great video that showed me on the bottling line, and I'm sorry, we're having problems with the video coming up, so we weren't able to share it. But what I'd like to do now, is there anyone that did not get the Big Magic poured in your glass? because I want to take you through a guided tasting, and this is a lot of fun. I always like to say, I do these virtually too. If you ever want a virtual wine tasting, let me know. I do this for businesses, companies. I'm actually doing one tomorrow at 4:30. And it's fun. You can get a whole global audience comes in. Sometimes they barely speak English, but you know what? Wine is a universal language, is it not? So let's take this, because truly, when we talk about dream making and we talk about winemaking, it is big magic. And so that became the name. So 5 S's of wine appreciation. Number 1, what do you want to do? You want to see the wine. So see, you always hold a wine glass by the stem. So you're looking at the wine. What are you looking for? You're looking for the color. You're looking for the clarity. And all of you know that that happens what? During the fermentation, you get this beautiful color. So you can tell by this dark garnet color that this is going to be a big, bold red wine. Of course, we know it's a blend, right? And a blend of Cabernet, Petit Syrah, and Zinfandel. Second S in wine appreciation is to swirl the wine. You know, it's kind of an art. It's all about the wrist. Just swirl the wine, swirling it around. And what does this do? Swirling the wine releases the phenols that are in the wine. So you get the beautiful aromatics. So the more vigorously you swirl, the better. Because keep in mind, this wine has been aged in barrels, not exposed to oxygen, bottled. And it isn't until you open it for the first time that that wine gets exposed. And it needs to expand like we do too, right? We've been cooped up for a long time. We need to expand. We need to open into being truly be able to come fully into ourselves. The same with wine. So swirling, and this is one of my favorites coming up. Number 3, S of wine tasting is, of course, the bouquet, to smell the wine. Now, hopefully you're getting the black fruits, a little bit of plum, a little bit of mocha. That's what makes a 99 out of 100 point Merlot. And this is 100% varietal pure. This is what a Merlot tastes like. This is what a Merlot should taste like. This is what a Napa Valley Merlot tastes like. So now, of course, my favorite 4th stage, let's try the wine together. We're going to sip the wine, and you're going to get this beautiful black fruits, beautiful plum. It dances on your tongue. It goes all the way back with a gorgeous finish. And, you know, that really comes again from the oak aging as well. So it's a perfect combination of that alchemical transformation of the wine and the oak and the passion of the winemaker. And the last, and maybe the most important step of winemaking and wine tasting is to savor the wine. So I want to say to all of you, I have savored this moment, and I want to make a toast to all of you. Because if I had a wish, I would say that I want you all to take your passion, to take your dream, to make it happen, to stay committed, to persevere, to overcome the obstacles, and keep your enthusiasm, most importantly, for life. And isn't that what we did during COVID? And to come back together in community. Let us lift the glass and to say to all of you, make your dreams come true, and look around and see who's helping you with it, and be so grateful and so glad for them. So here's to all of you. Cheers. I absolutely love it. So I am at, yeah. Thank you. That's sort of the end of the formal presentation. So I would like to open it up for questions, and then I'm going to invite my daughter to come up here as well. So I know that we had some questions earlier. Mike, I don't know if maybe you wanted to start out and talk, or if we just want to raise our hands. And for those on Zoom, I think that's what I'm looking at. Our 25 people are on Zoom. Use your chat, because we're monitoring that, and we'll be able to see that, and you can ask questions too. I'm sorry I couldn't share the wine tasting, but next time, show up in person. It's so much better. And I'll repeat the question. So do we have any questions? How much time do we have? First off, are we good? Oh boy, I do talk, don't I? Okay, quick question. Oh, someone's got to have a question. Okay, there we go. This gentleman over here. Sulfites, great question. Love that. Thank you. If you only had one, I'm going to tell you that's the one I like. Okay, what are sulfites? Sulfites are created by sulfur. Sulfur is something we use in the vineyards, and it will actually occur naturally in the wine. Now, a lot of people think that they can't drink wine because they're allergic to sulfites. Or you'll see some wines that'll say sulfite free, 100% organic, sulfite free. Well, sulfates actually help preserve the wine. So they're a necessity in the wine. But what a lot of people don't realize is that they're not actually allergic to the sulfates in the wine. What they're allergic to usually is the fining agents the winemaker uses. That's why I am a purist. My wines 100%, even the whites, are unfined and unfiltered. It's 100% grape juice. And they are sustainably farmed. We do not use any chemicals on our grapes as well. You sacrifice, the birds get a lot and the insects get a lot, and you don't get the yields, but you know what? You get the quality. So if you or anyone you know is allergic to wine, or wine gives them a headache, because it gives a lot of people a headache and they say, oh, it's the sulfites. No, it's the fining agents. And I do want to invite you down to Thornhill, because you will not get a headache from Thornhill wine because of the way that it's made. It's just made with that type of quality. But that's a great question. If I have a couple more minutes left, I do want to bring my daughter, because it was one of my dreams that she joins me on stage. Because if it wasn't for her, she manages our Lancaster tasting room. She does all of our social media. She does our website, and she is the most amazing and humble person. And I am so proud, and a great artist. So welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I just want to let everyone know that Valerie and I are over in the corner, and we are selling our wine today, the Big Magic that you had at the end. And we are also selling the Sauvignon Blanc and Merlot that you got to sample at the beginning. And we still do have it available for sampling. So we are selling wine by the bottle. We also have a 4-pack of all of those wines with 2 Sauvignon Blancs for $115. So if anyone does want to buy any wine, we are over there. But thank you everyone for coming out today. And isn't my mom a great speaker? She is awesome. Quite a great lady to look up to. So yeah, thank you.
Good job. Thanks, Rachel. I appreciate it. One more question, and then we'll end. Nope, we have a question. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yep. Very good. Phylloxera. Mm-hmm. 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 Too much rainfall. So great question. So the question was, we started out and, Thomas Jefferson also down in Virginia, right, wanted to make, wine. So it isn't that the East Coast doesn't have a tradition in the early years when my ancestors came, to the United States of trying to raise grapes and trying to make wine. The challenge with growing is truly that you can't get the ripeness of the grapes. And so what's really important and what stands apart in California and other of the top wine regions in the world is that the growing season also is much longer. So if you think about it, if you're in California, number one, we're having terrible drought. It's been a real problem. So it never rains. So we never get rain. We wish we could have some more rain. You have to drip the water on, because water is the enemy of grapes, because then the grapes all just puff up with water and you're not getting the concentration of the flavors, right? If it starts to rain, well, we get a lot of rain, and the rains usually start. I mean, they go through all the season. We hardly ever get rainstorms out there. And when the rain comes, it gathers in the clusters and it creates mold. And once the mold sets into the grapes, there's nothing as a winemaker that you can do to get those flavors out, right? So that's a problem. We get too much rain, and it is. I mean, we're always like every week it rains sometimes. That's not good for the grapes. And then a lot of cloudy, you're not able to get the ripening. So the winemakers and the wineries, and I'm not knocking them, they persevere, they have great stories, they have great passion. They're trying. It's just nature is not giving them the circumstances. Unfortunately, they need to make world-class wines. So because of the weather, sometimes because of the mold, the threats, and everything else, not enough sunshine, they can't get their grapes ripe. And so what do? They add sugar after they're harvested. And that's why so many wines from Pennsylvania and others will be sweet, because they're adding sugar. It's illegal in California. We would not be able to do that. And we don't need to do that because the sunshine gives us that ripening. So for Thorn Hill, I'm not harvesting anything until October, towards the end of October. And, by the time, if you're in Pennsylvania, they've harvested it and it's in the bottle and they're selling it. And, and that's just the difference, but it's excellent. And, I say, wherever your dream is, try to plan it, try to make it happen, but kind of be smart about it. That's why we would have been so much easier if we could have just stayed in Pennsylvania, but that's why I commute back and forth to California. But great question. Thank you. And I want to thank Mike and Jackie, because if it wasn't for them, I would not be here. They're wine club members, and I'm so grateful. And I'll tell you, I can tell they do a lot for your Rotary. So let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you, Amy, so much for, oh, by the way, that was Jim Anderson in a brief question. I just want to point that out. Thank you, Jim, for your great questions every week. Love them. Thank you, Amy, for sharing your passion, for sharing your dream, for inspiring us to follow our own dreams. We loved it. It was great having you here today. I encourage you to visit Thornhill, again, right across the river, easy to get to, wonderful wines, lots of great events, lots of stuff to learn there. So you should try to go. We are presenting the book Chalk by Bill Thompson that Amy was kind enough to sign the book plate for, and we'll present that to the Logos Academy. Next week, our speaker will be Amy Jo Morris, the founder and director of Glen Hope Care Farm. Amy is a third-generation farmer and mental health and addiction certified nurse. Glen Hope Care Farm, located in the heart of York County, is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to help veterans to overcome challenges through farming, nature, and community outreach. And just a final thought by our very own Ben Franklin: wines make daily living easier, less hurried, with fewer tensions and more tolerance. Rotarians, I hope you have a great week. This meeting is adjourned.